Welcome, welcome, welcome. Well, folks, here we go again with the New York Mets finding ways to lose, doing whatever it takes, losing 13 to, I'm sorry, folks, losing 11 to 9. These losses are starting to come together, and folks, it is just getting sickening. Sickening, sickening, sickening. 11 to 9 tonight. Maniah starting the game, and folks, it looks like we have a serious problem. A serious problem. Sean Maniah looks like a shell of himself compared to last year. You see it right off the bat. Hitters are salivating when they see Mets pitching in general, but let's focus on Sean Maniah. Sean Maniah's fastball, extremely hittable. Randy Arozarena hit a line drive today that it took one of these massive swings. I know Rosarena, that's what he does, but you could just see throughout the lineup, there was nothing on the fastball, And in the post-game show, you have Maniah going, well, I should have went to the sweeper earlier. I should have went to the sweeper earlier. I mean, folks, you can't be a successful major league pitcher with one pitch. You need to have effective pitches, and you need your fastball to be effective. You need to locate your fastball. You can't be laying it up on a silver platter. And we've noticed the life on that fastball is not there. The control on the fastball is not there. The mental makeup from Sean Maniah is worlds apart from last year. So again, the starting pitcher, failed. Then you go to the bullpen, and you know what I'm going to say. The bullpen, the vaunted bullpen. We get some arms. Ryan Helsley. You get Brooks Raley. Obviously that's a signing. You get Tyler Rogers. Montez put him in the bullpen, but the game was lost by then anyway. But again, hell's joke. I mean, this guy was supposed to be a dominant closer, convert him to an eighth inning guy. All he does is throw balls in the middle of the plate. The slider that had a nasty bite, I'm telling you, from the first game to now, completely different. I did notate in my notes that he was always throwing balls right over the plate. Now, batters are just throwing the bat out there and letting Helsley's his fastball do the work. They don't even got to swing hard, and they are hitting line drives all over the place. But, folks, it is just a complete joke, And Maniah is, he seems like a dead man walking at this point, a dead man walking. And I don't like to say that because Carlos Mendoza, Mendoza is a good guy. He seems like a good guy. Maniah, I apologize. I literally just woke up. I took a nap, and I just woke up 10 minutes ago, and I'm like, let me do a video. Folks, it's just really upsetting. It is just really upsetting right now. The team's coming in really expecting to lose, and what's going to turn this around? Well, something drastic's going to turn this around. I think you got to have really Steve Cohen kind of step in. I said last week that Steve Cohen kind of giving his blessing to this team was helpful. Well, you know what? It was helpful in one way. It really kind of motivating the offense because in the last 5 games, the offense is averaging 7.4 runs a game. But again, we're allowing 7.6 runs, right? So, you're allowing as many as you're scoring. You should be able to win a couple of those games, but the Mets are not doing that, losing 15 out of their last 17. And, again, finding ways to lose. In the last 10 games, the offense has scored 5.2 runs a game, which is pretty good, pretty decent. It's over the MLB average, but the pitching has allowed 6.2 runs a game. Folks, I want to enjoy my team. I want to, after these games, I want to feel good. I don't want to feel like I want to go to sleep in the middle of the game. I don't want to feel, this right now. I mean, this is just so unbearable. You got fans going out to Citi Field, and the Mets fans did a great job. I saw the excitement through the TV. I mean, really, this week at Citi Field should have been a ghost town after the way the Mets have been playing the last 3-4 months. I'm just so proud of Mets fans for continuing to support this team. But what can Mets fans do? I mean, Steve Cohen asked Mets fans to support the team. Mets fans are supporting the team, but you're not doing what it takes to change the freaking stench in that clubhouse. There is a stench in that clubhouse, folks. You have Mendoza, again, in the press conference, is saying the same thing. It's a broken record. A broken record. We have the talent. Oh, we need time. We're going to break out of this. We're just in a little slump. I mean, this is not a little slump. This is a major, significant chunk of the season. Folks, I'm not buying it anymore. I'm not. I mean, there were a couple points where I said, all right, you know what? The offense is clicking. Senga, okay, he's got to work his way back. Maniah's got to work his way back. But you know what, folks? Again, Sean Maniah, who was supposed to be almost a co-ace, we're not even seeing close to ace-like performance. He looks like a shell of his former self. So again, what do you do? The pitching staff, the starting pitching staff is barren, bereft of talent. And then I'm like, okay, the bullpen that we thought had the talent, they're kind of blowing it. But then if I try to be fair, I'm like, they are really, really, really overworked. And mentally, knowing that, hey, you're going to have to come in the fourth inning, third inning. I mean, again, this game is 60, 70, 80, 90% mental. You could really 100% see that. This game is very, very mental. The pitchers, I'm going to say, probably aren't this bad. I'm not saying they have all the talent in the world, but if you look at the first 2 months, we were pitching at a high level. In the last 2 months, we are pitching bottom of the barrel pitching, right? So again, the mentality has something to do with it. The coaching has something to do with it. The preparation has something to do with it. The leadership has something to do with it. The clubhouse dynamic has something to do with it. The lack of offense before this 10-game stretch had something to do with it. But right now, you got to really look at the lack of pitching success right now. I always had confidence that the offense would get it going. The offense would start clicking. And you know what? I said we can't blame the offense anymore. We can't blame Francisco Lindor anymore. We can continue to say Juan Soto should be better, but the offense has been good enough. The offense has certainly been good enough. As Jacob deGrom, he would have loved this sort of offensive production. Loved it. You know what, folks? Again, I'm gonna resort to it all comes down to leadership. For all of us who played on sports teams, you know how it feels to be on a losing team and on a winning team where, hey, everybody has that great positive feeling, that great positive expectation that we're going to get that hit. We're going to make that pitch. We're going to be clutch when it matters. We're going to step up our game. It's the expectation to win. And I said early on, the Mets, despite not having the best names in the pitching staff, there was an expectation to win. Now there is a huge expectation to lose. What's up, guys? I mean, honestly, I'm coming on here to feel better. I really wanted to sleep the rest of the night. I really did, but I couldn't sleep. I really couldn't sleep. Wait, Richard, how's it going, my friend? Dom Maniah is hurt. Well, I don't want to hope for any injury, right? I really don't, but I really want to get an answer, right? It would explain how his stuff looks so vastly different from last year. It really would. I mean, he looks night and day from last year, night and day. So if he's hurt, get him better. If he got a tired arm, do something. I said a week and a half ago, gotta fix Lindor. Lindor is a key cog. However Lindor goes, this team goes. Fix Lindor. In the last week, you fix Lindor, but the team is still not fixed. Maniah is a huge problem right now. And I've been saying it the last couple performances. People, said, oh, he looked good the first 3, 4, 5 innings. Then he got tired. He hit a wall. No, he honestly, I think, got by the first couple innings. Now teams are going to work. They're going to school on what Maniah is presenting to the hitters. It's not effective. It's not good enough. It's nowhere near good enough. And for him to justify, and I see Maniah in the press conference, he's embarrassed. He's halfway decently smirking in the press conference. And that's his way to, I think kind of cover up what he knows is going on. He knows that he's not good enough. He knows, and the fact that he said, oh, I'm just going to go to the sweeper more often, that's laughable. Laughable. Again, you're not going to get major league hitters out as a starting pitcher when you got to face the lineup multiple times with one pitch. You got to have an effective fastball. You have to have an effective fastball, and usually a third or fourth option. So you can't get guys out. So that's silly when they say I should go to one pitch more early and often. You need a pitch mix. You need a decent pitch mix. That's why I'm excited about Nolan McLean tomorrow. You'll see. I mean, he's got a decent pitch mix. But unacceptable for Maniah and Richard. If he is hurt, just get the guy better. And if he's not hurt, then that is extremely worrisome. And that 3-year, $75 million contract looks like a huge mistake. Will, laughing, crying, you know what? That's what we kind of feel right now. Explosive. This team is truly something right now. Yeah, something crappy. Jeez. What's up, Tom? Time to start congratulating the Reds fans on making the playoffs. Well, I mean, give the Reds fans, if I'm a Reds fan, I got to feel a lot more excited about my team. My team is trending in the right direction. My team has extremely exciting, young, dynamic players, no more exciting than Ellie De La Cruz. But the Reds literally have chased us down. Luckily, the Brewers somehow found a way to win. But again, there's only, they're holding on to the fact. Maniah, I keep saying Maniah, Mendoza, and this Mets organization are holding on to the fact that we have a tiny lead. And I remember we did that a couple weeks ago when we had a lead over the Phillies. Oh, we're still a game up. We're still a half a game up. Now, we had a 1.5 game lead on the Reds. Now it's a half game lead. We're still in a decent position. No, you're in a horrible position. Do you see the way the Reds are trending and the way the Mets are trending? It's only a matter of time before they create distance in the wild card race. It's only a matter of time. I don't get it. I am getting no hope. Give Mets fans hope. I guess, if I want to be fair, tomorrow's starters a little hope. But the Mets just need so much help in terms of drastic moves that, I guess you need Sprout, you need Jonah Tong, you need McLean, you need a whole group of pitchers to supplement our pitchers on this team. I mean, they have been massacred. And, again, it's going up and down the rotation. Peterson the other day, he got mauled. a Reed Garrett. You're talking about guys who have been, successful. And again, your biggest weapon on the team, your biggest weapon on your team, one of your all-star, you don't even use. Edwin Diaz, I know he gave up the home run a couple of games ago, but Edwin Diaz, you can't even use him. You're never even in a position to use one of your deadliest weapons. Not good. And you thought a guy like Helsley would be able to bridge the gap. But you're having a lot of trouble bridging the gap. And the bullpen that we thought would dominate doesn't look anything but dominant. And Tyler Rogers, who was supposed to be, a guy who just kind of closed the door, he allowed literally hitting contact was just minimal. He's not looking solid at all either. So what did we get at the deadline? What did we get at the deadline that helped this bullpen? We got more question marks. Lovely. I guess that's a positive. Explosive. The first time this season, Soto and Lindor went back to back. Honestly, you know what? I think I walked away from the TV for a brief moment. So the good moment I missed. Damn it. But again, the offense, you can't get on the offense. You really can't get on the offense. As I said, the last 5 games, scoring 7.4 runs a game. That is good. That is really, really, really good. And the last 10 games, 5.2 runs a game. So you can't get on the offense. You can't get on Lindor anymore. Lindor, multiple home runs today, 3 hits, 4 RBIs. And the first home run, I'll tell you that, the first home run, the leadoff home run by Lindor was phenomenal. That's vintage Lindor. Going oppo with that swing was beauty. The balance, the timing. I mean, you got to be locked in. A guy like Lindor, not a big guy, to hit a ball with that much power. I mean, Lindor, he's got the talent. That's why it was extremely disappointing. Right now, maybe now he's feeling better. The mechanics may have been thrown off because of the toe injury. So it's good. Down the stretch, that is the one good thing. Your leader, Lindor, at least your leader on the field, Francisco Lindor, looks to be much, much healthier. Soto's just going to be that consistent force. Maybe he's not going to be as good as some expected, but at least you're seeing good things from your, I guess people are starting to say, I don't want to name these 4 players, Nimmo, Alonso. We haven't been consistent enough for these guys to have names, but those 4 guys that we've highly paid guys, at least they're starting to produce a bit better. Master of Coin, how's it going tonight? Hey Dom, this team is getting hard to watch. No doubt there. But I still believe in them. Lots of talent. Bringing the sports psychiatrist for the pitching staff. Well, you know what? I mean, I would hope that they're talking to somebody with the mental aspect of the game. I really would hope. You gotta hope that at this point, being a team that spent $350 million in this payroll, right? You gotta figure that they've thought about the mental part of this game. Right? You gotta help that. But you know what? If they need a different sports psychiatrist, go for that. But again, yeah, they have the talent, right? But where are they lacking talent? The starting rotation, right? So they, although they have Diaz at the end of the rotate, at the end of the bullpen, can't use them. They have Lindor, they have Soto, they have Alonso, they have Nimmo. They have guys, Francisco Alvarez. You got to say Francisco Alvarez is really, really turning it up to a different level. Ronnie Mauricio's looking, obviously looking like he is progressing as well. So you have guys in the lineup that are stars, are talented. But again, where are you missing that talent? In the starting rotation. It goes without saying. And this is why we are seeing a Nolan McLean tomorrow. I mean, if he comes out tomorrow and he throws, I mean, okay, let's just say this: 5 innings, 3 runs, right? That would be a mediocre start, right? That would be mediocre, but it would be much better than anything we've seen. If he throws 6 innings, 2 runs, all right, good. If he throws anything better than that, less than 2 runs, 6+ innings, then we're talking about an ace-like performance, right? But again, I'm going to lower my expectation. The kid comes in, 5 innings, maybe a little more than that, 3 earned runs, solid, better than the rest. Continue to get better from that. But we need those pitching performances. We need aces. We don't have aces. We don't have a stopper. We don't have a guy every 4 or 5 days who will take the ball and say, hey, not on my watch is the other team scoring. I'm going to give you a strong 6-7. The days of DeGrom are gone. I mean, the days of, just a couple years ago, we had decent starters. It's just really tough. I mean, this team, this organization, one of the biggest problems is we have not produced starters for this club. We haven't. We just haven't. It's been a very long time, like over a decade, that we've produced a decent starter. I know David Peterson came from the system. I was drafted like 2018, 2019. So, but he's only come on as of late last year. That was the first time he kind of took it up. But still, it's really been a while, and it's been far and few between. So the Mets really have to do much better job solidifying this pitching staff. And it's all about it's really all about pitching. It's really all about pitching. In the playoffs, you're going to have to pitch at a higher level. You really are. You saw what the Dodgers did to us last year, right? You saw what the Dodgers did to us last year. And now you have teams with better offenses. You have the Brewers. They have a better offense. You have the Phillies. Their offense is, pretty similar, but still, it's pretty dynamic. If they're going to face a team like the Mets who just don't have talent, they're going to do well. They're going to do well. I'm really having a hard time seeing, us kind of status quo. You can't leave status quo. So hopefully you change with the kids, and then, it's sad to say it, but, you got to look towards changing the leaders. Yeah, explosive. You're right. There's no way baseball All right, folks. Sorry about that. Literally, I don't know what happened. My internet just completely went out. That never happens. I think there was some kind of storms in the area, but hopefully that doesn't happen again. Okay. Let's continue. I apologize. I lost my place. Wow. Thank you for all the comments. I'm behind on the comments, but I'm getting to them right now. All right, explosive, right? Again, Citi Field is packed because people bought tickets in the offseason based off last year's success. Yeah, but it's not even that Citi Field is full. The crowd is raucous. The crowd is excited, rooting on the team. I mean, if I'm a fan sitting in the crowd, I'm not feeling happy. I'm feeling, depressed, angry, upset, a bit duped. I mean, I was sold a team that was supposed to make a World Series run. And again, I'm going to continue to say it on every single nightly recap. The pitching staff had too many what ifs. Too many what ifs. What's one guarantee? One solid pitcher in the rotation that we could have relied on. One. Way too many what ifs. Sean Maniah only had a 2.5 month stretch that was of, like, let's say a number 2 level pitcher, even a number 3. So he only had a 2.5 month stretch that was towards good or elite. The rest of his career has been an over 4 ERA. And he was older, 33 years old. So that's a what if. Kodai Senga pitched last year 5 innings. He was injured. Coming back, how much more is he going to go? How much stress can he put on that arm? He only pitched 5 innings last year. That's your ace? That's a what if. David Peterson only pitched 121 innings. That was the most in his career. He's well beyond that right now in August. So pitching more than he's ever did in his career. David Peterson, despite his progression, he's a what if. Clay Holmes only pitched 78 innings out of the pen, a converted reliever. You're asking him to double and triple that output. That's a what if. And Frankie Montas, the biggest what if in the rotation, is out of the rotation. So again, there was not one solid guy that you could say, all right, the Mets have this guy to be a stopper, or they have that guy to be a stopper. And you can't tell me the worlds of the Paul Blackburns and the Tyler McGills and the Griffin Cannings, the other guys you started off with on this team, those weren't the solutions either. So again, this rotation of 7, 8, 9 pitchers, there was not one guy that I could say, all right, you pencil him in. He's going to be a solid 180 innings. He's going to be a guy who can go throughout the playoffs and carry you to a World Series. Not one guy. And again, were we so confident in the kids? Well, you know what, folks? It's really getting late early. Like, you know what? Yes, am I happy with going to see McLean tomorrow? Possibly Sproat soon after. But again, we've waited till August 16th. Right? We have a half game lead in the standings, in the wild card standings, and we're 6 games back of the NL East. So we've waited quite a long time to go to one of our solutions. See, I would never advocate for anybody to not go to a game, especially with an impending strike coming down in 2027, a possible impending strike. I hope people are not going to strike. Players Association or the owners, I hope they're not going to strike. But I'm just surprised that I give the fans credit. Steve Cohen said early on, come out, support us. We have a good product. Mets made a run last year. And that's what fans want to see. They want to see a good product, a fun product. Now, I know we have names in the offense, right? So we have names that you want to see. You want to see Soto. You want to see Lindor. You want to see Pete Alonso. And I think that was one of the biggest draws. Having Pete break the home run record, that was exciting. That's Mets history. So that I understood that this week. Let's see if that trend continues at Citi Field if the Mets continue to play this bad. I would expect that the fans won't be as excited. But again, give the fans credit and give the Mets players 100%. They burden this, and along with Mendoza, the coaches as well. Cohen won't do nothing. Well, you know what? At the end of the day, that's yet to be seen, but it's his money. It's his money on the line. So he has the right to step back and say, hey, this is David Stern's team. This is Mendoza managing the club. I have smart people in places. I'm going to step back and hope that things change. Or he has a right to step in because it is his club. He is investing his hard-earned money. He has a right to say, fix this now. Make changes now. I don't want to wait. This stinks. This smells. And obviously, this is not going to help business in the future. And you know what? This is a sad, Richard, this is actually, we were complaining about, yeah, you're right. We were complaining. This is funny. We were complaining a couple weeks ago, short weeks ago. Oh, the starters, they only go five. But the starters, they're just struggling to get to through the first couple innings. No, you're 100% right. 100% right. I mean, the pitchers have given up in the last 10 games an average I'm sorry. In the last 10 games, the pitching staff have allowed 6.2 runs a game, and in the last 5, 7.6 runs a game. You can't allow almost 8 runs a game. You can't. That's what the Mets did in the playoffs to the Dodgers. The pitching staff allowed almost 8 runs a game, and you're going to lose every day, all day, unless your offense completely mashes. But it's not reasonable to expect your offense to average more than 8 runs a game. That's crazy. Comes down to management ownership. Yeah, I'm always a big believer that it comes to the leadership. Maniah needs a full year to get back to last season level. He won't be elite until 2026. I mean, why? Like, is he coming? He's not coming off Tommy John. Like, well, I forget what. Let me see the details of what happened to him. Okay, so I mean, his initial injury in March 19th, 2025, he was making his way back from a right oblique strain. So, did he ever have an arm issue this year? Was it always the oblique strain? I know he had a bunch of setbacks, but if that was the main injury, then it shouldn't take a year from him to get back. It really shouldn't. He's not coming back from a problem like Tommy John. I can see, people saying, oh, Sandy Alcantara, he's going to need a year to come back to form because he's coming back from a major arm injury. Sean Mania is not. And also, too, then one's got to think, and I brought this up over the offseason, the Sean Mania changing his arm angle to sidearm. How much pressure is that putting on his oblique that he hurt? The new change that he makes to his arm angle at 33 years old, I mean, if that's going to put extra stress and strain on his body, that's not going to be good over the course of 3 years. So again, that contract is looking very, very bad. What's up, Ray? You're right. New ways to lose. Shit show of a team. I mean, honestly, 100% accurately said. I don't want to say that about my team, but it's 100% accurate. He's going to need surgery. Well, again, we got to wait and see. But, I wouldn't be surprised if we hear anything in the next couple of days that something's going on. Scott, what's up, my guy? Stearns messed up big. Really should have brought back Quintana. Maniah's elbow with the loose body stuff is affecting him. Just a few more weeks of agony. I mean, I'm just – I don't want to give up on this season. I really don't. I mean, I really don't want to give up on this season, but you're right. It is painful. It's sad. I mean, you got diehard Mets fans. This was the year where, again, tracing back from 2023, right? We've been building this team for the last couple of years. Sad to say, when you target 2025, you would have thought that we would have had a better pitching staff, but whatever. So 2023 comes, we trade away players. We tell everybody we're investing in 2025. Last year's offseason, we didn't invest in any big level offseason targets. We tried to get Yamamoto. We tried to get a couple other key parts, but we didn't invest a lot. So the expectation in 2024 were low. But the Mets proved that they were better than expectations. They proved that they deserved our attention. They deserved our, money, because Steve Cohen and I agreed. If the team is a good product, support the good product, especially if you love the team. I 100% agree with that over and over. But the product, again, has been abysmal. The product has played with the heartstrings of New York Mets fans. And again, I like to look at trends. Which team is trending in a positive direction, even if their record isn't so great? The Mets right now, the record is looking more and more like towards 500 and trending in a horrendous way. I mean, we are 15 games under 500 in the last couple of weeks. It's just not good. Not good. We're not even a mediocre team. We are a bottom of the barrel team. And for a $350 million payroll, that is beyond unacceptable. Beyond unacceptable. So, again, we were sold the bill of goods, and, that's why it's extra painful. And, again, hopefully we can turn this around pretty quickly. Will the Mets get to 75 wins? I mean, I would hope so. I would hope so. It's a shame we got to rely on the kid pitchers to save the season. It just really seems like that was a huge part of the plan, right? If you're going to sign, Sean Maniah is going to be a big key acquisition. You're not going to invest the extra capital in Garrett Crochet. I mean, how would you feel right now if the Mets made that Garrett Crochet trade? It would have involved Jet Williams. But again, Jet Williams is not affecting the 2025 season. Let's see if he's going to affect, or how much he's going to affect, the 2026. Well, I mean, before I speak, who knows? Maybe he comes up in September. But as of right now, Jet Williams has had no positive effect on 2025. Garrett Crochet signed that extension with the Red Sox, and this year has been an ace. So it would have been awful nice to have that, although, again, you would have had to give up a top prospect. So is that a direction we would have wanted to go in? David Stern said no. I would have explored it because you personally invested in Soto. We thought that this team had what it takes to be that World Series contender. And maybe if you had an ace and then you bring up the kids earlier, or if you somehow manage to do some other trade, now you can get another good pitcher. But now, not having one pitcher, it's just hard to do anything. You can't string. You can't stop losing streaks. You can't change. It's always a momentum is tomorrow's starting pitcher. Well, tomorrow's starting pitcher is okay. Tomorrow's starting pitcher, it turns out tonight is good, or not good, but some potential. But every day Are we happy that we're excited for Clay Holmes to go a strong 5 or 6? There's just so many question marks. So there could have been a direction change. You could have been more aggressive in the offseason. Again, I always look at what were the names out there? Garrett Crochet, again, he was probably the top person who was available. People wanted Sandy Alcantara. Sandy Alcantara, after the trade deadline, has been crapping the bed, giving up 6 and 7 runs a game. So Sandy Alcantara doesn't seem like that would have been the answer. It seems like Sandy Alcantara actually would have fit right in with this pitching staff. Ray, you're right. Richard, mediocrity is the mean with this core, but no, Nimmo says they are talented. I mean, honestly, that's a good point. Nimmo, a couple of days ago in the press conference, and I understand, Nimmo, the players, you got to be positive. You got to spin this. You got to spin this. Carlos Mendoza, broken record, every single press conference. We got the talent. It's only a matter of time. We got to keep pressing on. And then Nimmo the other day. But again, I mean, Nimmo can control the offense. The offense has done its job in the last 5 games. The offense has done its job. We should have been winning more of these games. In the last 10 games, the offense has done its job. Lindor has done his job. Things are turning around in the offense. But it's just so disgusting and disappointing that you cannot rely on the starters. And Ray, also, it's a complete shit show. More holes than Swiss cheese. Again, well said. Felt bad for Blackburn. He kept us in the game yesterday, and Jets. I mean, honestly, if we were relying on Blackburn for any positive contributions or to help, alter the season, it just kind of shows you. I mean, where were we going? Where were we going? I mean, if I'm an opposing offense, I'd love to see Paul Blackburn. I love to see Paul Blackburn. And think of it. I always try to think as the other team. All right, who would I want to hit against? Oh, man, I want to hit against Sean Maniah. I want to hit against that fastball. All right, you know what? He's not throwing the fastball. All right, I'm going to just look, for the sweeper. That's not effective if you have, the team looking for one pitch. But again, now you're looking for a guy like Clay Holmes. You're the offense of another team. You're going to tire this guy out by the 3rd or 4th inning. All right, we're looking good. The Mets pitchers really present not any huge obstacles to other offenses. Nothing is really complex with this team right now. And it's, again, that's where you go to coaching. That's where you go to analytics. Talent also is a factor, but what did the Mets do in the first couple months with little talent? They actually squeezed as much out of that little talent as possible. Brooklyn Johnny, out of the playoff race by Monday. Damn. 2 days away, 2-3 days away. It feels like that. I mean, I want to say that sounds ridiculous, but it feels like that. It feels like, I'm surprised the Mets, after losing 15 of 17, are still in the playoff race. But and that's super sad. That is super sad. This is a good point. Seats will be empty by next season, and Uncle Stevie better not say shit. I mean, honestly, after what he did this year, kind of scolding the fans early on. And the funny thing is, I don't like telling fans what to do, right? I don't like telling fans what to do. But in the case of Steve Cohen, when he invested hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of his money, I'm like, okay, he has a right. He's invested a lot of his money. Yes, he's a billionaire, but he's done a lot of things to give us hope, give us something to look forward to. So I'm like, okay, I understand the Mets last year had a good product. Okay, let's go out. But, after doing that and listening and supporting the team, now the Mets fans, again, have been duped. Again, and it's happened how many times? It's happened 2022, Mets good. At the end of the season, crap the bed in 2022, 2023. You get Justin Verlander, you spend a lot of money. Oh, by the trade deadline, the Mets are out, duped again. 2024, rebuilding year. We were kind of duped in 2024, but in a good way. The Mets were better than expected. But this year, 2025, World Series, all in, Juan Soto, Sean Maniah, he's going to be a co-ace. You got Kodai Senga coming back. The young pitchers in the minor leagues, they look like the Sproats of the world, the McClains, the Jonathans. They could come up and affect the team. And again, that very well may be the case where you have these pitchers help the team, but it's already August 16th. How many games are left? That's one of the frustrating parts of this move. That's one of the frustrating parts, that how many starts if McClain is good, how many starts is he going to have? And I know he's got an innings limit too. He's pitched over 100 innings in the minors, but still, I'm looking at the effect on this season and on a possible playoff run. And there's not much time left. There's not much time left. And you know what? I'm just checking one thing out. I'm looking at the standings, to be honest with you. And I haven't looked at the standings in a couple of days now. It's actually quite depressing. So the Mets are 64 and 58. What's that? 122 games. 122 games. So we have 40 games left. 40 games left. $40 games left. Let's just say we go 500. That gets us to 84 wins. Is that good enough to make the playoffs? With the Reds playing at their current trajectory, I would say not. And the funny thing is now, so you got the Reds a half game back. They're 64 and 59. They're 5-5 in their last 10. So I mean, okay, that's not, they're not world beaters, but again, they made up a lot of ground in the last couple of weeks. But in our last 10, we are 1-9. So that's much worse. But even a team like the St. Louis Cardinals, who traded us Ryan Helsley, they are 3.5 games behind us. I mean, how laughable is that? How laughable is that the St. Louis Cardinals, who decided to give up on this season and trade Ryan Helsley to the Mets, would pass us in the standings? Now, I hope that obviously never happens, but 3.5 games behind us, I mean, kind of just shows you the sad state of affairs of this team right now. And I always look at the runs differential. So the Mets right now still have a positive runs differential of plus 30. We have 544 runs scored and 514 runs against. I mean, at one point, our runs differential was close to 100. So I mean, again, the amount of runs that we allow as opposed to what we score is in the negative by far. I mean, I'm okay. In realistically, the only thing that saved our is saving our season right now is I would say, well, number one, the playoff format. You allow 6 teams in right now. That the playoff format that's saving our season because there's a lot of I would say there's good and up and coming teams. The Cincinnati Reds, they're good and up and coming. They have a plus 50 runs differential. They've played a lot better as of late in the last couple of weeks. They have good, young, exciting players. But the Cincinnati Reds, I never looked at them as ready to take it to the next step. Then you have the St. Louis Cardinals and the Arizona D-backs just by virtue in the NL, there's only about 7 teams that are viable, good enough to make the playoffs. Only 7 teams. So they might be top heavy, but the Giants, they gave up on this season. The Arizona D-backs gave up on this season. Imagine the Giants didn't give up on this season. Imagine the D-backs didn't give up on this season. Imagine the Cardinals didn't give up on this season. The Mets, the Mets would have a lot bigger problem right now, a lot bigger problem. Um, but again, I guess you're just hoping that this year happens what happened this year. You have what happened last year. The Mets get hot at the right time. The pitching staff all of a sudden clicks. I always even looked at the Jose Quintana's last 5 starts from last year, from August 25th on. You had even a guy like Jose Quintana take it up to a number 2 level in the rotation. Maniah stepped up to almost an ace. Luis Severino was awful solid. David Peterson pitched to a high level. You just got to hope this team clicks. But again, there is a freaking stench in this clubhouse. '81 and '81. I mean, you might be dead on with that prediction. And if that's the case, that is an utter failure. An utter failure, 81 and 81. That would not make the playoffs. And for us to be a 500 team, that again would be an utter failure. Danny, you're right. They better come up. The time is close. We will see Sproat. Then, if leadership has got a pair tongue after that, I think it's really everything. You got to throw everything that you can right now. And at the end of the day, what do you want? You want the most talent on the field, right? You want the most talent on the field. I mean, I'm all about like, development. I'm all about development, right? But why are we so hesitant to promote guys who have done it and been successful at every single level? Like McLean has been successful at every level. Jonah Tong has been successful at every level. Why are we hesitant? Does development stop when you get to the major leagues? That shouldn't be the case. That shouldn't be the case. Even if a guy's promoted from double A to the major leagues, let's say they skip triple A. That doesn't mean they get to the major leagues and you're done with their development. You got to continue the development. So I was never a believer that, he needs more seasoning. If the guy's ready and he can help your team and he can get major leaguers out, bring him up, especially if he can be better than the rest. And the rest has not been good. I gotta say something. Seeing Cal Raleigh up close, that guy. I mean, I haven't been following the Mariners, but I mean, this guy's a beast, a freaking beast. And the top of the Mariners order is pretty decent with Rodriguez and Rosarina. But again, I mean, that lineup shouldn't be scoring 11 runs. So looking ahead, we have the 2 games left. We have the Mariners, obviously today, Saturday, at 4:10. Then we have the game tomorrow. Is the last game, Mariners Mets. But the next series we're facing the Nationals on Tuesday. I mean, honestly, at this point, you're gonna have to start saying, you got to sweep the Nationals. You got to sweep the Nationals. Then we have a 3-game set with the Braves. I mean, you got to take 2 out of 3 from the Braves. You got to take 2 out of 3 from the Braves. So in that 6-game stretch, I got to expect 5 and 6. Then you're going to be facing one of your rivals, the Phillies. So you're going to have a 3-game set starting on August 25th. Now, traditionally, I've never been afraid of the Phillies. Never been afraid of the Phillies. But, the Phillies have, admittedly, yes, they've been playing better than the Mets. But, I'm going to highlight that's a time where I think we'll know if the season's over. That right there, Monday, August 25th to August 27th, we'll play 6 winnable games, and then you have 3 games against your NL rivals. That 9-game stretch, you have to win games. You have to make a statement. You got to start gaining confidence for your down the stretch run. Then after that, you're going to face the Marlins. The Marlins, very pesky team, but they got some, they got fight in them. They really got fight in them. Then you're gonna play you're playing the Tigers for 3 games. Then you're gonna play the Reds for 3 games. So you're gonna play the Reds for 3 games in September, and then after that, you play the Phillies. You play the Padres a couple series after that. You play the Cubs. So again, there are a bunch of matchups against teams in front of you. So you're playing at least 6 games with the Phillies. You're playing 3 games with the Reds. So, the Mets, they have to obviously do well in those series. But then, you got to really do well when you play the Nationals, the Marlins. Those series, you definitely have to do damage. And I'm not afraid of the schedule. I'm really not afraid of the schedule. Everybody's saying the Mets have a tough schedule. The Mets are playing a lot of teams that are going to be going to the playoffs. I'm not afraid of that. If you're going to be a successful team and make a successful playoff run, you're going to have to play at a high level. You're going to have to beat these teams. What better way to prepare to beat these teams in the playoffs than beat them down the stretch? So I was a proponent and happy that we had a schedule like that last year in 2024. I think it served us well. I think it served us well to beat the Braves in dramatic fashion last year in 2024, the Lindor home run. I think it prepared us for the Brewers series, the Phillies series, and then we finally got to a better opponent in the Dodgers. But again, every team this year has holes except for, I guess, the Brewers. I mean, they just seem to just be clicking on all cylinders. But again, it depends on who gets hot at the right time. Will, I know we've been talking about this the last couple of weeks. Our mitts are cooked. It's really, again, at this point right now, like there's nothing else I could say that, that would dispute that fact. There's obviously nothing I could say to dispute that fact. And me, like I was super, super positive going into this year. I was on the bandwagon. In a way, like I feel like I was duped. In a way, I feel like, I mean, I was really sold on this pitching lab. I was super sold on this pitching lab after looking at what the Mets did last year with the pitching staff. Guys like Phil Maton. Early on, you saw the effect on Griffin Canning, Tyler McGill, David Peterson, even Clay Holmes being converted from a bullpen guy to a starter. You saw that the pitching lab and the analytics and what Stearns was doing, the pitching coaches were doing with these pitchers was working, right? It was working early on. The first couple months, we were leading the league in ERA, and starters, they were doing their job. The bullpen, they were doing decent enough. Our formula was, you score, 2, 3, 4 runs, and the team would somehow find a way to hold the lead. Now it's no matter what happens, you get a 6-run lead, you're going to give up 9 runs. You get an 8-run lead, you're going to give up 10 runs. And the Mets are doing things pitching wise that they've, historically rarely done. These leads that they're surrendering, if you look back historically, this is not common. It's not common. So, you would think that something drastic would need to change if anomalies are happening, if the Mets are just, vying in such an area, a territory that is just so bad historically that it just rarely happens. What's up, Jason? David Stearns loves project guys. He doesn't want to spend big money on an ace for some reason. Now, that's been traditionally a David Stearns philosophy, right? We've seen that the last couple of years. We've seen that with the Milwaukee Brewers, but David Stearns is also a smart guy. David Stearns also put a lot of the pillars together in the Milwaukee organization that we see excelling today. So we know that he could turn an organization around and set up a very solid foundation, a foundation where we can see success for a long time. Now, if something is not working, and it's not working over the first year, the second year, the third year, you got to eventually do something different. Now, the thing I've been advocating for, and I hear other people saying this as well, Stearns was brought here to be special. He was brought here to be different, right? David Stearns is a guy that Steve Cohen has been, he's been vying for this guy since he got the team. He wasn't available at the time, so we had to go through a bunch of other GMs, the Aldersons, the Billy Eplers, Porters of the world. So we had to go through a slew of other guys who ran baseball operations to get to Stearns, right? So when he got here, I expected him to be special. Find a way to win. Find a way to discover talent. Find a way to develop talent. Make some trades that, you can acquire a gem, a jewel, whatever. Christian Yelich trade was something that, really catapulted the Brewers years and years ago. What about a trade like that for the New York Mets? I haven't really seen any trades where David Stearns came out as the victor. Where is the piece in the lineup where I'm like, wow, that was such a great trade by David Stearns. That's why we got David Stearns. I mean, no, the biggest move that David Stearns made, and these moves at the deadline for, upper echelon bullpen guys that have failed thus far, those were the most aggressive moments that I've seen Stearns. So I was happy about that. But again, they have been far and few between, and I haven't seen many impact trades. No, there's been not many impact trades. Last year, the trades, the Paul Blackburns of the world, that didn't do it for me. The Brazabons, did decent, just not enough. It's just not enough there. I mean, last year we had a chance to get Jack Flaherty. I'm not saying he's the best of the best, but, he would have provided after Kodai Senga got hurt. That would have been an effective move. I'm out of Arizona, damn it. Wow, folks, thank you so much. It's 2:15 in the morning. I appreciate everyone being here. I know it's kind of rough. It's not a good stretch. Sound like Carlos Mendoza. I know the team has talent, about to turn it around soon. Um, and you know what? Again, momentum is usually next day's starting pitcher. And finally, at least we have a starting pitcher. Say tomorrow, but it's really today in a couple hours, 4 o'clock. When we face the Mariners, we're going to get a chance to see our future. And I think explosive. You said it a couple of days ago. We were talking about the future starting rotation, and I mean, who knows? Maybe we might have a starting rotation that's actually homegrown. Imagine having a starting rotation of a McLean, a Sproat, a Jonah Tong, and even a guy like Christian Scott, who should be recovering from his injury. Hopefully next year he's back. But those are a couple good possibilities. And I would personally love that. You got David Peterson there as well. I mean, that's a homegrown rotation. And then you have other guys to, supplement that talent. You're going to have Maniah here for a while. You're going to have Kodai Senga here for a while, a couple more years. And if those young kids could fill out the rest of the rotation, at least the Mets don't have to spend big on pitchers in the free agency, because that's been tough for Stearns, and you don't have to make any big trades because the Mets weren't willing to give up Jet Williams for Garrett Crochet. Maybe one of the reasons is obviously you don't want to give up a top prospect, but another reason is you probably had confidence in some of these young talented pitchers. Explosive. You're right. Only issue, Mets baby rotation next year will be on an innings limit, but I don't think that's going to make a difference because this year's rotation was on an innings limit. Look at it. I mean, I went through it many times. Clay Holmes only pitched 68 innings. The kids in the minor leagues have doubled that already. Doubled that. So Clay Holmes was on an innings limit. Senga pitched 5 innings last year. He's supposedly on an innings limit, although maybe he should be. Peterson, he's only pitched 121 innings as a career high. So you have a bunch of guys in this current rotation that should be or are on an innings limit. I know you have David Stearns saying Holmes, no, he doesn't have an innings limit. No, but obviously it's just blatantly obvious. It's blatantly obvious. You can't have a guy more than triple his career output. And again, even if that's the case, even if there are some players on an innings limit because you're protecting them, they are your gems, your jewels for the future, then, that's where you get other guys to supplement innings. You get innings eaters. They don't necessarily have to be ace level if you have confidence in these guys, but they have to be able to eat up innings. The Bartolo Colons of the world from 2015. That's a great point. You got to have guys to supplement innings. 2015, you look at that young staff. That's why you had guys like Bartolo Colon to eat up innings in a situation like that where you don't want to stretch other players and overdo it with innings. Ray, you're right. Can't hug prospects either. I completely agree with that because we went through it yesterday. I went through 40 years of Mets number 1 draft picks, 40 years of the Mets top draft picks. Over 95% of those draft picks have been bums. Even as recent, Kevin Parada, Colin Hewitt, some of the most recent number 1 draft picks. Where are they? Jared Kelenic. PCA, Pete Crow Armstrong, that's going to hurt. That's a guy, and that's probably one of the only superstars. I looked at it. One of the only superstars the Mets have drafted with their top picks might be Pete Crow Armstrong. I traced it back to the 80s when the Mets drafted Darryl Strawberry and Doc Gooden with their first pick. Maybe you can consider, them superstars, but in their history, they've never drafted a superstar with their first pick. Yeah, I believe Francisco Alvarez, he was an international free agent. But Alvarez, Alvarez, I've always had a lot of confidence in him. I've always had a lot of confidence in him. He just got messed up mechanically. He got messed up confidence wise. We saw what he was doing early on. Mechanics out of whack. Guy was pulling off on every single pitch, trying to yank everything to left field. Off speed, breaking stuff on the outside corner. This kid was just looked terrible. Looked terrible. Now, calm, cool, patient at the plate. You can even see his demeanor in the box. Looks like a whole new guy. When he, outside pitch, he's not trying to pull it. If it's he's being able to be a little more patient at the plate. Francisco Alvarez is a kid who really should. I put him as my X factor this year. I put him as my X factor. Again, he's really helping out the offense, but the pitching staff, I didn't expect to be this bad. You guys talking about Baez. Oh my God, Javier Baez. That trade keeps me up at night. That really does. Now, we were talking how, maybe Carson Bench, he turns out to be a high level player in the major leagues. That makes you feel a little better, but still, you're never going to recover. I mean, PCA looks to be a dynamic, dynamic superstar. I don't even look at his stats anymore because I don't even want to see how good he's doing. I mean, I obviously wish the kid well, but so he's got a 6 WAR, Pete Crow Armstrong, 27 home runs, 78 RBIs, 30 stolen bases, 254 batting average. So he's actually pulled it back a little compared to what his trajectory was earlier on in the season, but he's still going to have a hell of a year at age 23. Age 23. Imagine if we had Pete Crow Armstrong patrolling center field instead of the options we had early on, the Tyrone Taylors of the world, even Cedric Mullins. I mean, if you had that young, dynamic player. But you got to think, Pete Crow Armstrong, like he was a young, skinny kid. I remember what the scouts projected him. They weren't sure about his offensive capabilities. They knew that he was going to be a speed guy. He was supposed to be a really great defensive guy in center field. That was what he was touted as early on. But his offensive explosion, especially with the power, hitting potentially 30 bombs in center field, that's been a really I don't want to say surprise, but it's been beyond expectation. But all right, whatever. Pete Crow Armstrong, he's not a Met, so all right. Folks, I'm gonna get going. I'm a little tired, but I just want to say thank you so much, everyone, for being in here tonight. Again, I just woke up, wanted to jump on here and speak to all of you. I've calmed down from earlier on, so again, thank you all. Hopefully, we all have a great night. Tomorrow we got a new day. Hopefully start a winning streak, and I mean, it's only got to get better. It's only got to get better. My old saying from years ago used to be, it can't get any worse, but it probably will. I don't want to go back to that, but you know what? That's how it's been. Can't get any worse. Probably will. Hopefully it won't. But have a great night, everyone. Thank you so much for being in here. I will speak to everybody soon.